Hi, thanks for joining us again. My name is Adam Hillhouse, and today I'm joined by Mr. Sean O'Hara, principal with EV Studio. EV Studio is a design firm providing architecture, engineering, planning, and other design services. They work in the commercial and residential sectors with experience in both new construction as well as remodeling projects. They are a local design firm with Colorado offices in Evergreen and Denver, and they also maintain an office in Texas. Sean, thanks so much for joining me today.
No, thanks for having me.
Just to start things off, can you briefly outline EV Studio and discuss the unique business model that you guys maintain?
Sure. I think you did a pretty good job of that. We're kind of traditionally we're an architecture firm, but we're also an engineering firm. We have architects, structural engineers, civil engineers, interior designers, mechanical and electrical engineering, sort of the full gamut of services. We do have the 3 offices, the largest office where I am in Denver, and then an office in Evergreen and an office in Central Texas in Copperas Cove. That's us.
That's a pretty broad range of services. Have you guys always provided both architecture and engineering in-house?
No, both of the owners, myself and Dean Dalvett, are both architects by training, and we both offered so both came from architecture backgrounds. Dean also has an engineering background. He has a PE, but again, primarily does architecture. A couple of years ago, we decided that we should go ahead and start expanding into some of the engineering branches. We'd always, again, had one foot into it. We'd done all of our own residential structure, which, again, as an architect, for the most part, you can do if you're competent in that. We decided that it would be easier to grow the business and probably more in keeping with our philosophy to grow the business by more full integration of the engineering disciplines.
Can you talk a little bit more about how that visioning developed and how that vision evolved into what it is today?
Well, I think we'd always felt like there was a little bit of a disconnect between architects and engineers in the traditional way that firms are organized, where you've got to assemble a group of 3 to 6 or 7 companies in order to do even very small projects. At the same time, we feel like we get better results by having all of those engineers and architects and so forth either sitting in the same office or talking to each other across the table at lunch and really getting a much better sense of how the entire building goes together. Sorry. So I think that was our vision from the start. I'm not particularly afraid of engineers, so I thought that it would be better to just go ahead and bring them on as employees as opposed to always as consultants. There's certainly a lot of challenges in that strategy. I wouldn't necessarily recommend that everyone go and try to do it, but at the same time, for us, it's proven to be the right model.
And I assume that vision is tied directly into the growth that EV Studio has experienced over the past few years. Can you talk a bit about how you use that as a roadmap moving forward?
Sure. We've definitely grown as a result of bringing engineers in-house who we otherwise might have hired outside of the company. But at the same time, we've also grown in architecture as an individual discipline. Let's say we also have civil engineering and structural engineering that do projects outside of our architectural projects. So each of the groups does grow independently, along with the obvious way that you've got just more people physically in-house rather than paying out-of-house consultants for some of those services.
That kind of leads into the title of your upcoming session, which is Growing a Firm in Interesting Times, which these certainly are. Can you talk quickly about what our listeners can expect to hear from your session?
Well, I want to talk a little bit about what some of our unique experiences have been. Not necessarily, I know that sometimes the people perceive some of those changes purely as our decision to go multidisciplinary, a lot of the online marketing and things like that we've done. But there's also a lot of steps that we've taken that I really believe that anyone could take to look at how they can grow their firm. We've got a different way of looking at marketing, a different really way of looking at how employees are integrated into the firm. I think there's a few interesting things there that I think that are unique to us, or at least the combination of all of these factors is fairly unique to us. And while I'm not going to advocate that any one person take everything that we've done and try to implement exactly what we've done, I think there's a lot of lessons there about playing to some of your strengths. A big example of that I want to talk about is what we've done with some of the online marketing, both how it plays to some of the strengths that I have with my just personal interest in new media and the internet, and on the back end, how we also have a company that can best serve those leads that are generated through that. And it's really, you got to look at it as you've got to have both the right sort of input and the right way to handle things there. And it's different for everybody. But so I'm hoping that people can take away some general conclusions about the strategies that we've used.
And that's kind of a topic I wanted to touch with while I have you here. I've personally been very impressed with the online presence of EV Studio, from your EV Magazine blog to your numerous client referrals that you have included. Can you talk a bit about how you view the use of online and social media for AEC firms?
Sure. I mean, I think everybody's going to have their own approach to it. It'd definitely be very different for a large firm versus a really small firm. What we've done is, frankly, we cast a broad net, and catch a lot of different kinds of clients, some of which are very small clients and some of which are much larger clients, through the internet. Just to give people a sense, I mean, right now we get about 2,500 page views in an average weekday and somewhere around 1,500 on weekends. I used to joke that if we could get one lead out of 10,000 hits, that was great. And it used to take 3 months to get 10,000 hits. And now we get 10,000 hits, usually by Wednesday. So, that's it's proven to be a good strategy for us. And it works with our personal philosophy very well. We're very, very open with information. We don't necessarily have a lot of secrets about the way that we do things. And so that works well with social media and sort of talking about yourself. At the same time, there are certain project types that you're not going to gain through social media. So everybody's got to kind of tailor their strategy a little bit. And there's definitely different ways that you see people using Twitter or LinkedIn or blogging software or just their websites. And some firms have really latched into it, and some haven't at all. And again, I don't know that there's a right or wrong answer, but I'm certainly always happy to kind of share what we did and how it's worked and some of the things that haven't worked about it.
Well, I can admit that I've actually used your blog on several occasions. I remember a discussion about residential tread depths and riser heights that I found pretty good interpretation of the code. So thank you for that. Do you see this as a new way of delivering professional services, or is it really maybe just another marketing trend in your opinion?
Well, probably one of the biggest tricks in casting a wide net with social media is what you reel in. And that's two things. I mean, part of that's discipline specific. There are a lot of people who are chasing down an architect, but in fact they actually need a structural engineer. There are plenty of people that might be asking a question about something they thought was engineering, and they actually need an architect to help them with that waterproofing detail. So I think that's definitely the trick about it. Of course, the other trick with social media and online media is the fact that there are state licensure laws in different states. And we get a lot of people asking questions that aren't in states that we're licensed in. So we have to figure out how to answer those, but not step over any lines that we shouldn't. Obviously, we're not able to turn those into projects, but at the same time, if they're sort of simple, universal code questions, I can certainly answer those questions. And at the same time, we're also moving into additional states. I mean, we've done residential projects that don't require, or that don't fall under licensure laws in quite a few states. And then we're licensed currently in about 4 states, and we're pursuing a couple others actively where we seem to be getting a lot of leads that we're not able to service. So,
yeah, I can understand how that gets complicated very fast. We're running a little bit short on time, but I wanted to ask if you had to narrow it down, is there one main idea that you hope our listeners will take away from your upcoming session?
Well, I think the one thing that I've tried to push for the last 2 or 3 years is some sense of hopefulness about the way that architecture is for the future. I think there's a lot of opportunities, both with new media. I think that one of the great things that we've been able to do by bringing the engineers in-house is to create a more unified team and really cement the role of the architect as the leader of that team. And again, we're growing an AE firm, but first of all, we're an A firm. So, that's, I think that's what I hope that everybody will come away with, is a lot of hopefulness and some ideas about, challenging what some of their notions may have been.
Great. Well, it sounds like it's going to be a really uplifting and informational session. So thanks again for the information and for all your time this morning. And I look forward to your session at this fall's conference.
Okay. Well, looking forward to it.
All right. Thanks, Sean. Bye-bye. All right. So I think that went pretty good. Yeah.